All right, we're here at the Laine Law Firm here in El Paso, Texas, right off I-10 in the heart of, I would call the West Side Central downtown area.
Yep.
Great location. Really is, feels like the heart of El Paso if I were to call it a place the heart. East Side, Far East. This really is the heart. But yeah, so we were talking about earlier about just kind of generally what kind of practice, um, the kind of law that you practice,
Mm-hmm.
and family law, which encompasses a lot of things. We talked about divorce. So we're going to go ahead and, if you don't mind, let's just talk about child custody issues and just kind of go into that. Because I imagine when people get a divorce, a lot of them have children, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if I'm looking for a divorce attorney, particularly because of my kids, I'm not extremely worried about the assets, so to speak. Um, can you kind of tell me what you can do for me if I'm coming to you with like, hey, this is the divorce. I really love my kids. I really want to keep them as much as possible.
Mhm.
Um, like, what can you do for me in a situation like that?
Okay, that's a good question. So, what I would start off by asking you is, are you still living together? If you're still living together, then I would advise you to continue doing that because that's going to give you the most access to the children. And then that would set you up to ask for 50-50 or as much time as you want to ask for. And then, if you're not living together anymore, then I would just advise you to see the children as often as you can, as long as the other party's agreeing, and to document that. Because a lot of times you go to court and then the other parent starts saying that you never see the children, you're not involved, you don't ask about the children, things like that. So you need to. That's what I would advise.
Well, that's great advice. I never thought about that. So it's I have a neighbor that's going through a divorce, and he's not there anymore. He's kind of my neighbor, like my buddy, whatever. But I hardly ever see him because basically he moved out. That can hurt him in terms of a child custody case if he's not seeing his kids on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's like she's establishing custody
Right.
during the separation.
Exactly.
Oh wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they're living together, try to stay in the house, even if it's separate bedrooms or whatever, right?
Yeah, just until, because what we would do in that situation is get temporary orders within a few weeks. So then you would just have that arrangement until a few weeks in. So you get to your temporary hearing, and then at the temporary hearing, try to establish visitation you want so that you have it in place before you move out.
Gotcha. Okay, well
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have these child custody issues, and the judge is going to have to decide who gets how often does the kids go here, how often the kids go there. Um, what are some of the deciding factors, like when a judge is kind of trying to do that? Like, is it 50-50 as a baseline, or how does that usually start out?
It's an extended standard possession order starting out, and then depending on the situation of the parents and their availability, their work schedule, their ability to provide a safe and stable home for the child, then you could argue for more time.
So, what is an extended possession order? If you can give me a quick definition of that.
Yeah, that's when the non-custodial parent would have every Thursday overnight, and then every first, third, and fifth Friday through Monday.
Got you. Okay. Um, now, when the judge is going to grant that 60, it's like a 60-40 split, right?
Pretty
Basically.
much, yeah.
What what are some of the factors that go into the decision to say, hey, you get the kids 60% of the time, this person only gets 40%?
So some of the factors would be like how we talked about before, where maybe one parent is traditionally the parent that is the primary caretaker.
Okay.
That would be one factor. Stability of the home would be another factor. If any of the parties have any significant maybe drug issues or substance abuse issues or mental health issues, that could be another factor. Also, their work schedule is a big factor. So if somebody works night shifts and the other parent is a stay-at-home parent, that's going to be a factor in their favor.
The stay-at-home parent would get the advantage.
Right.
So it's a disadvantage to be working hard. You get less of your kid.
Yeah,
Oh wow,
sometimes.
that's interesting.
Exactly.
And that's called an extended possession order, right?
Yes.
Okay. So um, when it goes into a 60-40 split like that, I imagine that the bills are they split 60-40? This is where you start getting to these child support issues because it's
Mhm.
50-50. Is there child support issues at that point when it's 50-50?
So when it's 50-50, you can deviate from the Texas child support guidelines, right? And so normally people think when you get 50-50, the other parent doesn't have to pay anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times that can be a motivation or wrong motivation for some people. Like they just want to get 50-50 so that
To get out of the
they don't have to
payments.
pay child support. But I think that's a misnomer. I think it's a misunderstanding because even if you get 50-50, the courts, depending on what judge you get, you're also going to have to pay child support per offset. So you're still going to have to pay child support, just not as much.
What does it mean per offset?
So, like, if we calculate her child support to the dad, and her child support would be 500, but then if we calculate dad's child support to mom and it's 1,000, then he would just pay 500. Like, it's just an offset of what she should be paying him, the person that would pay more.
Okay,
That makes
so
sense.
sort of. So if she only makes $500 for the child and he makes 1,000, then he's gonna have to, of his 1,000 extra that he or whatever that he makes, he's gonna have to put 500 as well towards that. Is there's like a special bank account it goes into or something like that?
No, it would go directly to the other party.
Wow, that's interesting. So it really has a lot to do with just how much you make,
Yeah,
in a way,
it's just a numbers
based on your income.
thing.
So
Yeah, and I think the reasoning behind it is the child didn't request the divorce, right? So the child's lifestyle shouldn't change, I think, is the thought in the court's mind. So because one parent makes a lot and the other parent doesn't, they don't want the child to be able to go on these lavish vacations with one parent, and then when they're with the other parent, they can't even, buy the basic necessities
I got you. So it's kind of like legislating fairness for the
for the child.
child. So they're and also protecting the parent that's financially disadvantaged in a way.
Right. Yeah,
That's kind of
exactly.
fair, I guess. Huh? It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated.
And so the 60-40 split is based on like the school that the kid's in, what's best. So a housewife would be awarded more custody than 80-hour work dad.
Probably, yeah. Just depending on if that working parent had the ability to still care for the child and maybe provide alternate care for the child, even, because everybody has to work.
Yeah, that's true. Um, Now, when you're going into this child support battle, what's the typical timeline? Because, like, let's say in the beginning, one spouse has full custody. How quickly? Because you said something about temporary orders.
Yeah. Yeah. So the temporary orders we can get within a few weeks, and that'll just kind of set into place the rules and guidelines for the parties while the case is going on, so that one party doesn't like hide the child from the other party or do anything crazy or move, to another state. And then when we get to final, then the judge decides what to do in the final
Okay,
order.
and so that's a great thing I didn't think about. So when they're trying to divvy up the child support, is there rules in place, like say the dad can't move out of the city or something like that, or he'll lose child support, certain privileges possibly? Does that happen?
Well, no. So the purpose behind the geographic restriction is so that, like, let's say you're used to being in your child's life and you live together with your wife, and then you separate, and in order for you to be able to still be involved in your child's life, we need to make sure that mom doesn't move to New York. And so the judges, they will put in place a geographic restriction so that both parents can still be involved in the child's life.
Gotcha. Okay, and then obviously, so basically, child support comes down to the welfare of the child, right?
Well, yeah, if it's a 60-40 situation, it's pretty black and white in Texas. It's 20% of your income if it's one child, 25 if it's two children, 30% if it's three children. And then there's little step downs if you have more children outside of the marriage.
Like multiple wives, or
Yeah, like if you have three kids with one wife and then you have two kids from another prior relationship, your child support's not going to be 35%. It'll go down a little bit to give you credit for those other children that you're supporting.
so let's say, so let's just say it even goes down to 20%. You're gonna have to give 20% to those kids, and then another 20%. Is there like a max limit? Like, I mean, because imagine if you're working
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving like 80% of your income, you might be incentivized not to even work at that point, right?
Yeah,
Is there a
so
limit?
the limit's 50%.
Wow, that's interesting. And you know, that is pretty interesting. So, let's say you have a simple divorce. In a simple divorce, does it already just kind of outline what you're going to do with the kids to just get it? You know what I mean? Or do you have to still go through a child support type of hearings
So like in a simple divorce,
or
when
uncontested?
yeah, when you're saying that, I think it's uncontested. So then the parties would come to us with an agreement for everything: child support, custody, visitation, medical support. And then you could always do whatever. So let's say you have an agreement and your child support should be 1,000 a month, but
Mhm.
you and the mother agree for 200 a month. It's like an extreme example, but you could do that as long as you have an agreement.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Well, thank you so much. It was very informative learning about the child support and all the
Okay.
little intricacies here. Obviously, the areas you serve are Paso County, Horizon City, Socorro, Texas, Vinton, basically all the surrounding cities that are part of the El Paso County.
Yep. Anything inside of El Paso County, that's what we handle.
So Hudspeth County would not be included, right? That's a
Mm,
set. They have a separate.
Is I don't think is Hudspeth in El Paso County.
Well,
I
they
don't
have
know.
some JP courts here, so that
Oh,
a JP court that I know of, or
okay.
something separate. But
I'm not sure if it's in El Paso County. Then yeah, it would have to be filed here in El Paso.
okay, I do have one more question about the divorce. What if they break up and one of the spouses leaves for a job to another state, and then or they don't break up, but he leaves or she leaves, and then they get a divorce? Where is the divorce going to be filed if there's kids involved?
That's a good question. So the county of jurisdiction is where the parties have lived for the prior 6 months prior to the filing of the divorce. And then if it's a custody case without a divorce, it's where the child has lived for the previous 6 months.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that are pretty clear cut. So
Hmm.
there's not a lot of room for too much subjectivity. It's very objective. You know, what you're trying to do is just advocate for your client.
Right.
Um, you just give them the best opportunity, the best chances within the framework of the rules. Right?
Yeah, I think our job is really like to understand the client and then tell their story in a way that can help them most within the confines of what you're confined to legally.
Right. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again so much. We're here at the Laine Law Firm, located at 700 North Stanton, and it's a beautiful office here on the second floor. You can see the I-10 freeway, the interstate, from this view outside the window, and you really are located downtown, west side. It really is just a nice location. You're so conveniently located. I live on the far east side, and I got here really quick, so
Yep.
very convenient.
Right off the freeway.
Yeah. Again, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.